Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we are heading straight into the kitchen to tackle a total dinner classic. We're going to walk step by step through Chef Taha Ayyad's brilliant recipe for sheet pan lemon garlic butter salmon. Seriously, if you've been on the hunt for a flawlessly juicy weeknight meal that, doesn't require a culinary degree or leave you with a massive sink full of dishes, you have totally found it. Just think of me as your personal kitchen mentor today as we unpack exactly how and why this recipe works so incredibly well.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. We've all been there, right? You buy this gorgeous, expensive piece of fish, you put it in the oven, you get distracted for maybe just a minute or two, and suddenly, ugh, you're pulling out this chalky, dry, totally unappetizing piece of protein. It is literally the most frustrating thing. But the solution is actually this beautifully simple, foolproof foil packet method that basically protects your dinner and guarantees a tender, juicy bite every single time.
To get us there, here is our roadmap. We'll quickly cover the perfect weeknight salmon, the exact ingredients and easy substitutions, the prep and that magical foil method, baking, broiling, and testing for doneness, serving and perfect pairings, and finally, reheating and storing those leftovers.
So, jumping right in with Section 1, the perfect weeknight salmon, a forgiving and manageable dinner method.
So, what actually makes a recipe truly perfect for, say, a chaotic Tuesday night? It's not just the flavor, it's the flexibility. This method is brilliant because once you seal up that foil packet, the oven does all the heavy lifting. You absolutely do not have to babysit the stove. As Chef Taha Ayyad perfectly captures here, the salmon cooks gently inside the foil packet, the butter keeps everything moist, and the lemon cuts through the richness. What this means for us is that the cooking timing is surprisingly forgiving. If you accidentally leave it in for an extra minute while you're frantically setting the table, it's fine. The foil keeps all that moisture locked right in.
Let's move on to Section 2, ingredients and easy substitutions, building the lemon garlic butter sauce. Okay, so a successful dish always starts with getting your ingredients organized first. Let's take a look at this list. We need 1.5 to 1 3/4 pounds of salmon fillet, 1 thinly sliced lemon, 3 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons each of fresh lemon juice and honey, 5 minced garlic cloves, and your trusty basic salt, pepper, and fresh parsley. Now, notice that salmon specification right at the top. Skin on. This is absolutely essential. The skin acts like thermal insulation against the hot sheet pan, which helps the fish cook evenly and actually holds it together when it gets wonderfully tender. And please, don't skip mincing that fresh garlic. Garlic powder just won't give the butter the same depth, and mincing allows it to melt beautifully into the sauce instead of sitting in harsh little chunks on top.
Now, when we're building this flavor profile, a couple of key choices really matter. First up, fresh lemon is totally not negotiable here. In a recipe this simple, every single ingredient needs to shine. Bottled juice, it's just going to taste flat once it hits that melted butter, whereas fresh lemon slices will actively perfume the fish as it bakes. It's a game changer. On the flip side, if you need a dairy-free substitution, you can absolutely use a plant-based butter. Just make sure it's formulated specifically for cooking so it doesn't separate weirdly when mixed with the lemon acid, and maybe steer clear of those strong coconut flavors, because they will totally overpower the whole dish. All right, Section 3, prep and the foil method, constructing the perfect steam chamber.
We've got our ingredients lined up, so let's get to where the moisture-locking magic actually happens. First, get that oven preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, slap a large sheet of foil on your pan, and put the salmon right in the center, skin side down. Step 2 is a fantastic little trick. Tuck those thin lemon slices directly underneath the fish. This slightly lifts the salmon so it doesn't stick, and it infuses flavor from the bottom up. Next, melt your butter and whisk in your lemon juice, honey, and garlic. And hey, just a quick note, the honey is just there to soften the sharp citrus edge, not to make it taste sweet, I promise. Pour 3/4 of that gorgeous sauce right over the fish. Save a little bit for later. Then season it generously with kosher salt and pepper. Seal the foil up nice and tight and just let it marinate on the counter for 10 to 15 minutes. But don't let it sit longer than that. If you do, the acid in the lemon juice will literally start cooking the salmon and break down its texture before it even hits the heat.
So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding exactly why we are wrapping this fish up like a little present. The foil packet method creates this perfectly sealed, humid environment. You see, instead of the harsh, dry, direct heat of a bare sheet pan, which basically blasts the fish and cooks the edges way too fast, the heat inside the foil circulates super gently. It traps the steam from the butter and the salmon itself, which vastly slows down any moisture loss. But wait, before we pop it in the oven, I have to share this vital pro tip from Chef Taha that will literally save your meal. Salmon fillets are notoriously uneven, right? They're super thick in the middle and super thin at the tail. If you just leave that thin tail hanging out, it is going to dry out way before the thick center is even close to done. The easy fix? Just fold or tuck that thinner tail portion slightly underneath itself so the whole piece of fish is roughly the same thickness. It's a tiny, tiny adjustment, but man, it makes a massive difference in the final texture. Moving to section 4, baking, broiling, and testing. The critical moments of cooking. Okay, slide that perfectly prepped packet into your 375-degree oven and let it bake for about 17 minutes. When that timer goes off, carefully pull it out and open the top of the foil. Be super careful of that escaping steam, and make sure to keep the foil edges raised up like a little boat so your sauce doesn't run all over the baking pan. Now grab that reserved butter mixture from earlier and spoon it right over the top to freshen up the flavor. Finally, crank your oven up to high broil for 5 to 10 minutes. Now listen, this is the one single step where you must pay attention. You want the top to get lightly golden and caramelized, but under a broiler, the jump from beautifully golden to totally dried out happens incredibly fast. So seriously, keep your eyes glued to it. So how do we know it's truly perfectly done? The absolute most foolproof way is to grab a meat thermometer. Hitting an internal temperature between 125 and 130 degrees Fahrenheit in the absolute thickest part of the fillet is going to give you a beautifully soft, tender texture. And remember, you want to pull it out right at this temperature because of carryover cooking. The fish will actually continue to cook slightly from its own residual heat even after it's sitting on your counter. But hey, if you don't have a thermometer, visual cues are definitely your best friend. And we really need to clear something up here. Forget the outdated idea that salmon must be completely pale, opaque pink all the way through. If it looks like that, it's already overcooked. Perfect salmon should flake and separate easily when you press it with a fork, but the very center should still look just slightly glossy and translucent. That's the sweet spot. Section 5. Serving and perfect pairings. Completing the weeknight meal. All right, our fish is resting, it's smelling incredible, and it's looking glossy and perfect. You are going to have a lot of amazing sauce left in that foil boat, and you absolutely do not want to waste it. You're going to need a starch to catch it all. Fluffy rice or roasted baby potatoes are totally excellent here, or honestly, just grab a massive slice of warm, crusty bread for dipping. For vegetables, since the salmon is so rich and buttery, you really want sides with a little bit of freshness to balance it all out. A nice, sharp salad with a vinaigrette is perfect, or if you're craving a hot side, quick roasting vegetables like asparagus or green beans are ideal because they take basically the exact same amount of time to cook as the fish. You can actually just slide a second tray onto the lower oven rack while the salmon bakes. Almost done. Section 6. Reheating and storing leftovers. Protecting your hard work the next day. Now, if you are lucky enough to have leftovers, they'll keep beautifully in the fridge for 2 to 3 days. But we really need to protect your hard work here. The absolute worst thing you can possibly do to this beautiful, juicy salmon is just throw it into a microwave on high power. Oh man, a microwave will aggressively overheat the edges, it'll tighten up the proteins, and it will instantly ruin that perfect texture you just worked so hard to achieve. To reheat it properly, just place your leftover salmon in a small baking dish. Add a spoonful of that leftover buttery sauce, or honestly just a tiny splash of water if you're out of sauce. Cover it loosely with foil and warm it super gently in the oven at a low 300 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 minutes. This gentle, low heat warms the fish right through without squeezing all the moisture out of it. Which brings us to our final question for today. Are you ready to invite this foolproof, glossy, totally flavor-packed salmon into your own weekly dinner rotation? We've seen exactly how the foil packet does the heavy lifting, how incredibly simple the ingredients are, and exactly how to avoid the dreaded dry salmon trap. It's a proper, fantastic meal that feels elegant enough if you've got guests coming over, but it's entirely manageable for just a regular, busy Tuesday night. I highly, highly encourage you to get into the kitchen and give this elevated yet super simple technique a try. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and happy cooking!